And under Article 8 of the state constitution, they're supposed to deliver maximum benefit. And my message to Greg Johnson is keep doing what you're doing at your peril.
Well, I don't think it's immoral to get oil out of the ground. I don't think development is evil. I think that when you see companies who are now considered personhood acting immoral, treating people wrong, ripping them off, and then manipulating and colonizing a government like the state of Alaska, I mean, what the hell is, you know, Jim Bowles is walking around in Juneau this week. He is walking around in Juneau. I sat in a courtroom and listened to that man on the phone. It was taped by the FBI, talking to Bill Allen, saying, you know, gavel out the House, rodeo the Senate, let's just get this done. And Bill Allen's telling him who's working for him. Ben Stevens, Pete Cott. Okay, why is that son of a bitch out of jail? Yeah. I mean, Bill Allen's sitting in jail right now. Bill Allen didn't own a pipeline. He didn't own a company. He didn't own, you know, any leases. What he had was this beholding to as one of these feeder off of the oil companies. And so enough's enough and too much is nasty. And I know that you have worked on a solution, Ricky. You have a solution that could actually protect Americans, we the people, as in people that have come into the world some way other than in an office somewhere and having paperwork filed.
Well, actually, there's two things I want to say. I think there was a time when getting oil out of the ground was not immoral, and when getting coal out of the ground was not immoral. And it's when we didn't know about global climate, the crisis. And now we know. We have advanced as a society, and we know that this is not going to be a good thing for our immediate children, much less our grandchildren. So now that we know this, it adds another burden. And I think now it is immoral to be pushing for more oil out of the ground and more coal out of the ground. We know too much. We know that it's imperiling our children. So we need to stop.
I just don't want to get on an airplane with a solar panel. I have a hard enough time flying, Ricky, and you know, we are hypocritical in a sense when we say, okay, if we said no more and this is immoral, yet we're still putting fuel in our car. I mean, I think there's a way that right now that we do. Clean coal is about wrong, doesn't exist. It's, you know, like being revirginated.
But we have the technology to switch, and what we need is the time, and we're running out of time because big oil and big coal are back lobbying like crazy. And this is why I got dragged into all this democracy activism, was because March 24th, 1989, I swore that I was going to follow this to the end of my life, whatever it took. And it turns out it's more than an environmental disaster. It's a democracy crisis. And we cannot get to the world we want. We cannot get to a sustainable future with these big corporations writing the big agriculture, you know, with the Monsanto seeds, big pharma writing health care for us, and big oil and coal saying there's such thing as clean coal and no such thing as climate crisis. No, this isn't going to work. So I was with the Power Shift students in Eugene, Oregon, and I was chanting with them, no coal, no oil, no compromise. And when I started lecturing, I was like, okay, this is a great chant, but have you thought how you're going to get to no compromise? And there was like this shocked silence. And like, that's the teachable moment, right? And no, they hadn't. And I'm like, okay, here's the problem. Why are we even fighting the lobbyists in Washington, D.C.? Why are we even fighting these big corporations? They should not have speech rights, but even more basic than that, they should not be considered persons, and they shouldn't have any of our human rights. If we, as a people, want to grant them due process under the law, we do that as a privilege, not as a right. Rights are fundamental, and they're foundational, and they're for people only. So what I believe what we need to do is go back, and this is like a long-term solution. We're going to need some shorter-term sort of fingers in the dike because of the Citizens United case decision. But the longer-term solution is going all the way back and saying the pendulum has swung. First, we had people were property when we started our country, and that didn't work so well either. And it took, you know, civil war and revolutions and blood on the streets, and finally we got it sorted out that no, people have rights. And now the pendulum has swung, and now property is people. And it certainly is not. So we need to fix that. We are the ultimate sovereign ultimate check and balance in our sovereign self-governance. If we don't do it, no one else is going to. And this is not something I want to go rushing off to Congress to fix. This is something that needs to come up in every state. We need to build the grassroots. We need to build the education of the masses and the people so that when it does get to Congress, there will be no turning us back. There'll be no denying the people.
It seems to me that that would be a natural convergence with the Tea Party folks. Because to be, no, I'm
They're for
serious.
it.
I kind of have a soft spot in my heart for the Tea Party people, to tell you the truth, because I grew up in North Pole. Those are my people. And, but seriously, this concept of individual sovereignty, which is something that theoretically these folks buy into. Yeah. But, and the idea of enlightened self-interest, that also is a principle. Somehow, there's got to be a way that you can reach these folks,
I don't
and
have
they
to.
can reach out to you.
They're already reaching
No,
out. The founder of the Teabag Party has come out against the Citizen United case, saying
that's
corporations are
amazing.
not
And I'm
evil.
coming out for, if you're going to spell the N-word on your sign, spell it correctly, which is also the same guy. But that should tell you how messed up this decision was. Okay. That you've got people on these sort of levels who are just like, you know, they'd sooner shoot you as walk across the street and say hello, are ready to like look at this. And I think a lot of it's short term, where they're like, well, we can get it back from Obama. Well, this country's never been about who's in for 4 years or for 8 years. I mean, look, we survived Bush. There's your proof. So in going forward in this, I really wonder at what point people are going to realize, and will it be too late?
Oh, I think people, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just going to say, I think there is a groundswell. I mean, I don't have my pulse on what, you know, the mass, you know, of whatever this movement is going to turn out. But I do sense that there is a dissatisfaction, and it's nebulous right now, and people are striking out. They're striking out because I think of what's happening on Wall Street, people losing their jobs, right. A lot of you know, dissatisfaction even with the Democratic Party. We're saying, you know, you get your act together. You've got a majority. You know, do something.
Right.
And I think it will turn into a positive. There's a transition. I think there has to be a transition. I like your analogy of not having the solar panels on the airplane. So, but I do think there has to be an awareness that we are moving in this direction of clean technology, of looking at the kinds of jobs that we create, like what you talked about, Elstun. We've got to think differently. We've got to have this paradigm shift, and it has to be now. It can't wait. Well,
it's going to have to wait till we come back from the break. How's that? All right, we'll be right back. All right, welcome back. And if it sounds like everyone's having fun, they are. We're here at Bernie's Bungalow, and you can join us. You can send an email to moreupnorth@gmail.com, and we'll reserve you a spot. As long as there's spots available, you're welcome. Teabaggers, welcome. So this is one of my favorite parts of the program, which is when we take questions from the audience, and I have to go through them sometimes because, frankly, I don't think black silk is an answer to every question. So a couple of questions for our panelists. Are you ready? Seatbelts, Red Bulls, let's go. The current strategy on the right is to paint all liberals as environmentalists and all environmentalists as radically anti-human. How do we fight this meme?
I fight it every day on the road when I'm taking on public buses, on shuttles, on the airplane. I just start talking to the people next to me, and almost always the reaction is, oh, we're not going to agree on anything. And I'm like, really? Do you have children? What do your children do? And then we kind of go into jobs, and we segue, and you get them on the basis of humans. This is about, forget the politics of it. Let's greet and meet each other as humans on the street. We have a lot more in common than we have differences. And that commonality is what we need to build a movement.
I always like to tell my teabag friends and family that
you are from North Pole.
That this country, this nation, was founded on liberal principles. And it's critical that we defend those principles. And
What about you?
Well, there's, I was just talking to Ricky before the program, and a common friend that we have is Bill Hall, and we're working on trying to have meaningful public dialogues and actually training people. We've trained about 30 people through the Cooperative Extension Service and also the Kettering Foundation to create a public policy institute here in Alaska where we can have sort of the framework, if you will, to have dialogue without people screaming their red shirts and the blue shirts, to find that common ground that Ricky was talking about. We have kids, I have 5 grandkids. You know, I don't want them to grow up in a, you know, polluted world and, you know, jobs that are, you know, offshore someplace. And so it has to be, I think, a personal interest, and we've got to create those mechanisms for that common ground to be